Hey guys, it's Dragon Ball for Life here today, and I'm back with another video. Now, today's video, we're going to be reacting to Jobbers and Goons video called 11 Minutes of He-Man Scaling Above Your Favorite Verse. Now, this was suggested to me by Sunik Sunil. He suggested quite a bit of videos, and he suggested this one. He kind of basically left it a little bit open because he said you can check out Jobber and Goons version of, He-Man, or Ivan the Unstoppable. Now, I do like Ivan the Unstoppable, but Jobbers and Goons one, I feel like there's going to be a little bit more to his one because his last video that he did that I reacted to, which was Batman versus Itachi, I had quite a bit of disagreements with him in there. And after that, I started checking out a little bit more of his videos, and I see he has quite a bit of videos. Some content seems pretty interesting, and I do feel like he's somebody that I would disagree with quite a bit. So compared to Ivan the Unstoppable, I do see myself being able to disagree with some of his points, but I think it's more important to check out videos from YouTubers and content creators that I disagree with more, because there's more to go into that discussion. Not saying that right off the bat that all of his videos are going to be incorrect or this one's going to be incorrect, but I just do feel like some of his power scaling compared to like what I thinking power scaling is different. I think the way he does it, I don't agree with very well. It doesn't mean that it's wrong. It just means I personally don't agree with. And I think it's best to check out his stuff. So I will be checking out more of his videos from the future. His other videos on how strong these characters are. Because my opinions on how strong these characters are is a lot different than others. And I have debunked a lot of characters' powers that a lot of people have stated to be very powerful as still powerful, but not as powerful as people think. Also, I want to say, definitely go check out my Kenetachi beat Goku with the Tsukuyomi video. I dropped that yesterday. It's actually doing pretty good. It's almost at 100 views, and it's not even been a day. I did say I was going to drop it out before even when I watched that video, I was planning on doing it. It just felt like it was even better to do it then. And I was just being a little bit lazy dropping out, but I felt like that was necessary. There are a couple of other videos that I'm going to be going into dropping out. I'm going to be doing a video on how strong is the characters or the universe of Gurren Lagann is. I'm going to be also doing a video on how strong is Mori Jin from the God of High School, and how strong is Shinra from Fire Force, and maybe some other characters. Maybe what's the thing called? The time I got reincarnated slime Rimuru. I will also probably doing how strong is Rimuru video. Though it's a little bit harder for that one. It's hard to find the manga and stuff for that. But yeah, if you guys want me to do how strong is video on any character that you guys think is very powerful, definitely send them my way, and send different ways I can find it, because when I do it, I want to find the best possible sources of research so I can go into it. So yeah, let's get into this one though.
Alright, I'm super excited for this video, man. It's my birthday weekend. If you want to donate for my birthday, hit the Cash App, link in the description. I'm going to have a great weekend, and, to celebrate my birthday, how about we make some content? I celebrate with you guys by making more content, and today we're going to bring some relevant content that I think is crazy, because the scaling is by far beyond anything I typically see people talk about when it comes to this topic. The topic today, of course, is the power of He-Man. Now, He-Man has plenty of material from his own runs, his shows, DC comic crossovers, all that. I'm going to discuss Master of the Multiverse and DC comic crossovers featuring stories like him and the Thundercats crossing over, him and Injustice Superman, and many more. And I'm going to explain why He-Man is massively stronger than you thought. His verse is way stronger than you thought. Overall, why he's one of the most dangerous characters in fiction, and why the power sources he uses are wild. Real quick, if you want to see more content on the He-Man verse, scaling like this, if you want to see content on his weapon, which may be beyond the source, stuff like that, make sure to hit the like button. You got to run up the likes on this video if you want it, but I don't want to waste too much time. I want to go ahead and break down some of the masters of the multiverse scaling, get into the characters that you scale He-Man off of, and overall where we can get him with this scaling. So first off, let's talk about the characters in his story that matter and apply to his scaling. So obviously one of his biggest ops, Skeletor, aka Skeleton Face, embodiment of evil, big-ass goon, right? Well, before the crossover with I believe it was 1982 Superman, Skeletor, with half of the Power Sword, hit Castle Grayskull so hard that it bridged the continuity between Superman's universe and their own. And this was supposed to be power beyond even the limits of the gods, as Castle Grayskull, which you'll find out in a bit, has stupid power residing within its walls. During the Superman He-Man crossover, we actually see that the origins of He-Man does have some ties to the DC universe, as he states his mother came from Earth, but he also has ties to, obviously, his planet Eternia, which I will talk about in a little bit. In the same panel, Superman comments on how fast Cringer is, aka Battle Cat. He-Man says he can go even faster, which impresses Superman, and I mean, obviously, He-Man scales above Battle Cat. But if your speed impresses 1982 Superman, you're ridiculous. This dude used to throw people through time like a football for memes. That's how fast he is, okay? So if you're impressing him, it's crazy. Skeletor, also in this crossover, casually mentions, like, he gets confused when people beef with him because, in his words, quote, "How can this be? How may a simple wall of stone and masonry defy the might of one who has conquered universes?" I'll explain the walls of Grayskull later, like I said. But yeah, Skeletor is no slouch. If you're all in a video on him, run the likes up, because he's a monster. And then the Power Sword, when He-Man is fighting one half of the Power Sword in possession of Skeletor. During the battle, He-Man says, "Superman, don't job, don't get hit, be on guard." Of course, it's Superman. He had the job, he gets hit. Superman states in this moment he has never encountered power of this magnitude before. Why is this nuts? Obviously, you got stuff like Swamp Thing, the Green, Spectre, Darkseid, all this. He's met all of them. What's even crazier? If you go back and look in history, 1982 is when this story was around. 1980, Superman encountered the Presence. Think about that. Potentially, this scaling of half of the Sword of Power, or the Power Sword, is beyond the Presence. Nuts. Like, that's crazy. Now, do I think Skeletor with half the sword is beating Presence? No. But it's some wild scaling to think about, and the implications of scaling like this exist all over comics, and you really need to look out for it, because it's some wild stuff. But this encounter, of course, He-Man and this classic Superman fight, He-Man didn't want to hurt him because, obviously, they were just partners, and he knows he's been possessed by magic.
Okay, let's go through a couple things. One, I don't know why he put the thing saying stronger than Goku right there. It seems like he wanted to disrespect Goku for no reason. But from what I've seen from his channel, he seems definitely more of a comic book fan than an anime fan, and he seems like he dick writes a little bit of comics a little too much, and I don't have a problem with comic book fans, but I do think that they are terrible at power scaling, and I do think that they over-exaggerate how powerful they are. But also, there's a couple things I want to talk about. One, He-Man stated that he can go faster, like something about going faster than light. So he's either at light speed or faster than light speed. I'm surprised he didn't mention that. That's actually a pretty impressive feat. But also, the whole, him saying I've never encountered like a magical like being this powerful. Remember, these are crossover events, and usually the crossover events, they're non-canon and they don't really connect or talk about the other stuff that happened in other comic books. They're mainly just focused on what's happening here. They're very nonsensical. They're not very they're very disjointed compared to the rest of the stories. The rest of the stories, they have continuity that they go through, and these crossover events stuff usually are disconnected from those continuity and don't really have anything to do with it. So because he said this doesn't mean that, well, around that time he met him, but that doesn't mean that it's contextually connected to what happened right then. It could just be, a disconnected story altogether, because we have seen throughout stories where characters, they've struggled in these crossovers against people that they should have won against from other universes or that, but they just need to make them more on equal footing. So there's that. And a lot of these statements can be played and overdone. Like, he even said he doesn't think that he can beat Spectre with, have the power of that sword. So there's that. Also, Grayskull saying he conquered universes. That's pretty interesting. I want to see how many universes. And I didn't know that there was any other universes outside of the He-Man one. Like, where did he come from then? Where's the other universes? And by conquer, does he mean just, planets from that universe that had life on it, and that's how he conquered it? And that also depends on how much life there is on that universe. But it's still pretty impressive feat to conquer universes. So yeah, but there's not really much to say here. He hasn't shown anything that puts him well above countless other universes.
But Superman temporarily knocks him down and tries to break into Grayskull Castle, but even still, he was easily going blow to blow with him, and it stated Superman's the strongest in the verse at that time for DC, as is He-Man for his verse, despite countless powerful beings existing in his verse. Now let's talk about some other crossover events he's taken place in, particularly one that really interested me, because I've kind of slept on Injustice verse in terms of the universe and comics, but it's pretty strong. Now, during the Injustice crossover, Darkseid used the Soul Siphon to extract the equation. The Soul Siphon looked just like the Infinity Gauntlet from Hero's Soul Guardian Castle Grayskull, which means Castle Grayskull, like I mentioned how it's so stupidly strong, holds the power of the anti-life equation within its walls. I mean, he's literally extracting the, quote, equation. The equations within the walls. Grayskull Castle at least has an equation akin to the anti-life. The reason that impresses me is because in DC Comics before, the anti-life has been stated to be almost like one half of the duality of the source. And, I mean, so you could potentially say it's half source wall level, or I mean, just regular source level off Castle Grayskull. The Orb of Power is then brought into the events when Superman and He-Man jump Darkseid, who has the equation siphoned, and the Orb of Power was stronger than the equation, which is nuts. Injustice Superman also says this Orb of Power that he used to defeat Darkseid can tap into the entirety of the DC multiverse. He literally says all layers of realities in creation it can touch and encapsulate, and it can help you control it, whereas if he was to just try to enter that level of power without the orb, he would get erased and uncreated. That's according to Superman himself. Skeletor took the power of Shazam and passed it on to He-Man before he died at the hands of Injustice Superman. With the power of Shazam amping him, He-Man took the Orb of Power from Superman, along with the anti-life equation and Soul of Hero, and destroyed Injustice Superman with everything returning to normal after this battle. So, with just a Shazam amp, he was on par with a Superman with the power of the DC multiverse.
Okay, let's get into this right here. A couple things. One, the anti-life equation I always thought was dumb. It's basically what the anti-life equation is, if some of you guys don't know. It's basically the power, it's this mathematical equation that gives you the ability, or Darkseid the ability, to basically control the minds of anybody and have them as a slave and servant. Which is kind of lame, if I'm being honest, because if you have a character that's decently powerful, or really powerful with psychic abilities, I'm pretty sure there could be characters out there that could do that without needing the anti-life equation, that could literally subjugate all of reality by, having high level of psychic abilities. But Darkseid, for some reason, I don't know, it's just weird. But yeah, I don't really like the anti-life equation. I think it's kind of a weird thing. They don't really go in depth in it too much. He does state that and then here he's talking about, He-Man took the power of Shazam, he got it embedded in him, and Injustice Superman had this orb that can connect to the entire DC multiverse, so he was a multiversal level being, a multiversal level being, and He-Man was able to take the power and kill him by simply just being amped with Shazam's power. But there's a couple things that you can go into. One, the orb, there isn't enough of an explanation on what they meant by the connection. He's saying that it can tap into it. That doesn't mean it can fully control the DC multiverse or makes you a complete multiversal level being. It just means it can tap into the multiverse itself and have a connection to it. That's it. It's not saying that it has the power of the multiverse itself, because he's not showing any feats from Superman with this, amp from this orb doing any multiversal level thing. So I think this is more just of a, of a hyperbolic statement than it is a literal one until it's shown. And the multiversal thing, like I said, it didn't say that he can control it and warp it and, have command of it. It's just saying that he can tap into the multiverse and have a connection to it. So he can have some level of it, but not fully. And then He-Man getting Shazam's power to take it out of him. He-Man getting an amp is possibly because He-Man is a magical being himself and has magical powers, so having another high-level magical power in him probably amplified it to a significant amount. People think it's probably just like you add, Shazam's power to him. It's probably kind of like fusion, where it's not the addition of the character's powers multiply and significantly get stronger. So that's what I'm kind of assuming with He-Man with Shazam's power in him. I think since they both have high level magical powers, combining it does a crazy chain reaction that gives him even more. And he's stating that he killed him, but the problem with his explanation here is he's saying that Superman got this orb. This orb has the power of the DC multiverse, and he's a DC multiversal level being, and he was able to kill him, take it. No. Or maybe, since Superman doesn't know how to use it, and it does contain magic, and He-Man also has magic, an additional magical amp, that he had the magical connection to be able to pull that magical orb from Superman. So Superman was possibly using this magical item to amplify his, what's the thing called? To amplify his power, but he didn't know how to fully control it because he's not a magical being. He doesn't really use magical items very often. Whereas, He-Man, he didn't really beat, the multiverse level threat. All he did was pull the object that had the multiversal level power from him, which Superman had probably no real understanding on how to use it, and he just, extracted it from him. And it doesn't require you to be on the level of that power to extract that power. It just needs you to have like a magical connection to pull it out. And like I said, it isn't shown 100% that it can control the multiverse. He's just saying that it connects to the realities, so it has a connection to it. That's not the exact same thing.
That's disgusting. Mum-Ra, one of the most powerful beings in all of DC creation in this run, was able to force almost like an incursion type event between the Thundercats reality and He-Man's reality, and ultimately Mum-Ra fell to Skeletor, and Skeletor became infused with him. And this design of Skeletor was absolutely dope. Also, like I mentioned, Eternia has really good scaling. I'll go ahead and touch on it. So it stated at one point in the comics, quote, Eternia, it may not look like much upon first sighting, but this unassuming little world is believed by many to be the first magical planet of creation. Crazy. So it actually does have very good scaling, and it's a hard planet to manipulate because of its origins. The eyes of Thundera drove back a...
Okay, he talked about the other character being powerful. This is a problem with a lot of people that do these videos. They mention a character and they're saying they're powerful, but they never go in depth in how powerful they are. For me, if it was me, like let's say I said this character beat up this character who's very powerful, I would go more in depth in how powerful they are and be like, well, they beat this character, but this is how I would explain it, saying they beat this character, but this character is this powerful, and then explain how powerful they are. Instead of just saying, oh, they're very powerful or one of the most powerful, explain why they are one of the most powerful and go more in depth in that. So show some feats, show some, arguments to how powerful they are. Because if you're just saying this character beat that character and that character, what the hell does that mean? It's like saying Goku was able to match up with Beerus. He was able to match up with the God of Destruction, Beerus. Okay, he matched up with a god, but how powerful is this god? And I would have gone through like, oh well, this god can wipe out this entire universe easily. He has this much power. He did this and that, and show some feats. So now we know how powerful this character is. Instead of just saying he beat a very powerful character, that doesn't really mean much to other people, especially me, because I don't really know what the hell he's done. Like, what has he done that's so powerful? So I would have gone more in depth in his feats and more about, what he's been able to accomplish, and then talk about, well, he's this powerful and this character was able to beat that. So if he's this powerful, then he'd be able to beat him. If he's this powerful and he was able to beat him, then look at how powerful he is. But he's just saying he's very powerful and he got beaten by a Great Skull. Isn't that impressive? Well, you didn't really explain why is he so powerful, what has he done so crazy for us to be impressed by. So yeah, there's not really much there. I don't like when people do that. I just want them to go have a little more context on what's the importance of their power. Also saying that it's the first planet to be a magical creation or magically create a planet still doesn't mean anything. Like, once again, you have to go in depth with what does that mean. Like, what is this magic? How powerful is this magic? How crazy is it? You're just saying it's a magical planet. Okay, that's crazy. Cool, but to what degree?
Mumra fused Skeletor amped by the Power Sword. So even, you know, the Thundercat stories has crazy scaling. If you want me to cover that, I can do that as well. But like I said, you got to run up the likes. Y'all got to show some love for this stuff. The Sword of Omen is another weapon we're talking about that's used for He-Man scaling. Grants power beyond power. But even that didn't put Lion-O, who had it, comfortably on par with He-Man. As in his own words, Lion-O struggled to actually replicate the feats of He-Man with his swords. The Sword of Omen also grants sight beyond sight and shows He-Man a future with terrible possibilities. These two both have their swords, and like I said, even with these weapons of great power, He-Man technically, at least narratively, should be implied to be above. In this story, we also see He-Man tanked weaponry specifically designed to destroy his mind, and he was just fine. And the Orb of Power was stated by Mumra fused Skeletor to have created the Nexus of Realities, aka the entirety of the multiverse. So it doesn't just power it, control it, it actually created it. It's much stronger, like I said, than we imagined. Now, this is crazy. That power, we're talking about that power plus Mumra amped Skeletor. This was nothing because Sword of Omen and the Sword of Power, both used at the same time, scale above Mumra fused Skeletor and the Orb of Power. So, with his sword, the Sword of Power, He-Man at least is scrapping with beings that at worst you could lowball with their power sources are like half source power level. So yeah, He-Man has some disgusting scaling in his crossovers, and overall is one of the most slept on characters I've run across in scaling in recent memory. But anyways, guys, let me know what you think. If you like these crossover comics, if you like me discussing